It's been quite a while since we have done an urban rock hunt together, so today we are headed to check out the riprap rocks and boulders under the same bridge that I showed in my video about the 2013 flood here in Fort Collins. I sure am glad that you decided to come along with me. Years ago, while living in central Mexico, I learned how to exploit even the most unlikely urban places to enjoy this rock hobby of ours. I remember one time dreaming intensely of a riverbed full of clean, big, beautiful gravel. And then I woke up, and eventually I did track down a store that was selling small river cobbles for about $1 each. And they were all just gray basalt. Now I consider myself quite spoiled in terms of access to cool rocks. So this video, in that sense, is for all of you who perhaps live in an urban environment and don't get to just stroll down to the river or hike in the mountains without a major investment of time and or money. The whole world, after all, is made of rocks, and so wherever we are, we should be able to find them if we just know where to look. In our case, the river here comes from the Poudre Canyon, which is one of the most geologically diverse canyons in Colorado, exposing an assortment of deep basement rocks and related metamorphic and overlying rocks that were uplifted during the Laramide Orogeny and the formation of the Rocky Mountains. Of course, there is a highway and many other roads and also construction work that has been and is still taking place in said canyon. And so all of that blasted and moved rock has to go somewhere. Well, we can find that rock dumped generously all along the river in an effort to manage erosion, and especially around bridges and near neighborhoods bordering the river. What a great way to see a cross-section of huge natural rock specimens without going far at all. I do want to point out, however, that you should not collect from such places, as the rock is, after all, put there for a purpose. It goes without saying that you should make sure that you are allowed to access the site, or that it is not on private property. Also, be sure to exercise extreme caution as you would in any steep, rocky environment, since the rocks could shift and move, and the fact that they are behind your own backyard doesn't make them any less dangerous in that sense. Often, however, smaller pieces of this material, as we shall see later in the video, are washed downstream during floods and become part of the gravel bars, where they can safely and harmlessly be collected if you did want a few pieces. At this particular site, we are seeing, among others, a greenish mafic rock that is not very interesting other than that it occasionally contains beautiful manganese oxide dendrites on its flat fracture surfaces. However, on this trip I could not find any. Also, we are seeing an abundance of what appears to be hornblendite. In contrast to the more common hornblende schists and gneisses that we see around here, which have a layered appearance, these large pieces appear to have little or no such layering and are completely composed of highly reflective black hornblende. We also are seeing what may be either a metamorphosed granite known as a gneiss, or perhaps even a migmatite, an extreme deep basement rock that consists of granites and gneisses that were then almost melted completely before re-solidifying, which explains the banding and swirly look in some of the pieces. The bright red color of the feldspar contrasts nicely with the white quartz and black gold reflecting biotite mica. This seems to be the most predominant rock at this location, or at least the most recent to be added to bolster the riverbank. I thought maybe that they added it after the flood almost washed the bridge away, but I later found pieces of it over a mile downstream in the gravels, so it must have already been there in 2013 when the flood took place. You know that we are highly privileged in terms of exotic and beautiful rocks when they use such attractive pieces just to hold back the river. Look at these huge reflections in the sunlight, and also the bright red color of the feldspar crystals, not to mention the gold hue of the biotite mica and the occasional large quartz veins crisscrossing the boulders. I would imagine that no matter where you may be, such rock is piled up somewhere near you, perhaps as landscape rock, or a barrier to prevent beach erosion, or, as in this case, to contain and direct floodwaters. You may find an abundance of fossils, perhaps, or blocks of exotic white marble. I would love to hear what is used for such purposes in your area and how you came to find it. I personally enjoy all of the rock varieties, and I hope to make similar videos of other rock types used for such purposes. I see this colorful vein pattern on the surface of the rock, followed by what appears to be a very coarse sandstone, or even a conglomerate with a unique composition. I have seen these before, and many of them have a lot of green fragments in them and also a lot of mica. I am hoping to come across a site where they are dumped in mass so that I can film them better for you. These were the only ones that were here. And here we enjoy a few more large pieces of the most abundant rock in this area, that amazing red migmatite, a mix of tightly layered gneiss structure with huge lenses of coarse red granite that seem to be wrapped in biotite. Such a unique rock that I don't think I could ever get tired of seeing it. It turns out that quite a bit of this material rolled downstream during the flood where it can be safely collected. I've heard it said that all migmatites are gneisses, but not all gneisses are migmatites. And upon visual inspection alone, it may be difficult to tell the difference here. So I would enjoy any comments, especially if you have seen this rock in its original source location. I am basing my identification visually and on what I know about our local geology. To be honest with you, I did not do well in my goose class when I was in high school, and so I am not sure what these amazingly attentive parents are saying, nor even whether they are talking to me or to the kids. But to be safe, I gave them their space and went around wide. My original intention was to end the video here, and I had all the images and clips stored in my editing app ready and put in order. A few days later, I intended to do another rock hunt video at my usual location near the house. But the river had risen quite a bit, as you can see here, and the little side channel was full of water. And so I decided to try another area further downstream. Much of that gravel bar has been overgrown during the last 12 years, but I was pleasantly surprised when I started seeing pieces of the same material from where I was just filming. And some of these are huge and deeply buried, attesting to the fact that the flood was quite powerful, enough to roll these huge rocks almost a mile downstream from where they were. I imagine, judging by only the top showing of many of the rocks, that there are much more beneath the surface. And as the flood eased, they were mostly buried in regular gravel and sand. I have learned in my life that even in these small details, the Lord works everything out for the best. And so I was amazed at the unlikely arrangement of me having just filmed the video at the bridge and having not uploaded it yet, and then to come across this unique deposit so far downstream and a ways from the current river channel, really. It just provided us all with the perfect opportunity to be able to collect a few smaller pieces of this amazing material, as well as a chance to understand a little bit more about our 2013 flood event. Here we see plenty of smaller pieces of the red migmatite, hornblendite, and even a few varieties that we did not see at the bridge location, likely coming from other sources. Of course, we see a number of awesome regular rocks in the gravels as well, such as this rather nice banded gneiss. I have another interesting question for you to consider. If these rocks rolled down the river for almost a mile, and yet barely had the sharp edges softened, how much rolling around had to occur for these regular cobbles to become as rounded as they are? Especially considering, as we saw in the video entitled Poudre Canyon Rock Hunting Adventure, about that ancient gravel deposit that is hundreds of feet above the current river's location, much of this gravel has been reworked many times and not simply rolled down the current river. Also, note the similarity of the migmatite shown in that video with our material seen here today. As I keep looking around here, I begin to see quite a variety of this material, such as this green pyroxene-rich amphibolite, and then, quite coincidentally, a large chunk of hornblendite right next to a spectacular little sample of an almost porphyritic hornblende schist or gneiss. If the sun were out, these long needles would really shine. Well, if you're still here, I'm pretty sure that you enjoyed the content, and I want you to know that I hope to do another video soon of some unique rocks used as riprap along our river. Again, I would love to hear about that used in your area also. Please like, share, and subscribe, as that really helps us out. I look forward to seeing you all on the next one.